Hello all. I think we should start now. So, has everybody done the prerequisites, which was required in the for this webinar? Okay, so I think everybody has done that. So let's start with the event. Can you just share this prerequisites? Okay. Okay. I'll share the prerequisites. So I've posted that all the prerequisites which was required in the chat, so you guys can check. And now we'll start with the event first. So we are the presentation is given by Mr. Anush Swaminathan. He's the director of One For Life Private Limited. And what is the agenda for today? So agenda is first we'll have some introduction of what are we going to do, what is IO combats, and as well as then after we'll have a presentation by Mr. Anush, and then we have a giveaway from our event partner, which is Creately. So that will be shared after the presentation is done. So about IO combats. So what are we? We are a developer trio experience in different domains and technologies. In the past years, we have been sharing our knowledge and helping out fellow developers with various platforms like Medium, Dev.to, and some other third-party blogs, and even on WhatsApp groups and all. So we share a common vision that is to build a community of developers who are willing to reach out and help other developers in need. So we will be creating a different, a separate WhatsApp group for that, where we will have a community of developers who are already experienced and who are as well.
Hello.
And collaborate with your team from sketching out concepts, analyzing processes to brainstorming plans.
Hello.
And hello.
Uh, Hi, Gadi. Sorry, I think we lost you a minute back.
Mhm. Okay. So can you see the screens?
No, your screen is not visible. Is it just me?
I think it is
No,
not
the
visible
screen
for everyone.
sharing has
Yeah,
stopped
Yeah, it's
and
not
Gadi is
visible
back
for
now.
everyone.
yeah, I'll share it again. So is it visible now?
Yes.
So yeah, I was talking about the team. So we all three are there in the team. Uh, and then our event partner, which is Creately, and they have a very good tool to create the sketches and to create the diagrams and everything for brainstorm. I mean, from the wireframing to the end product. So they have uh, two two useful links we have for our AWS solutions, so through which we can create this diagram for our AWS solution and architectures. So I'll be sharing all these links in the chat. And so about the speaker, Anush Swaminathan is our speaker for today. He's a person who is expert in programming and keeping up with the latest trends. And here, I think most of us have already know him. And like he has already achieved a new height in life. Like he took risk while he was working for someone, some other organization, and he switched to and started his own with all his effort. And he's very keen to share his knowledge from the day I know him. And he's also excited to share his knowledge today with us. So I think I'll ask Anush to take over from now. So yeah.
Thank you, Ghazi. So, good afternoon, everyone. Am I visible? Am I audible? And I'll keep myself visible as well. So, I hope you guys can see me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. So today the session is all about hosting, how we can have these serverless applications. What are serverless applications? What is the architectural structure of a microservice architecture? Or what are the different types of microservices? What is a monolithic architecture? So I would like to ask you all guys, how many of you are actually from a development background or from a DevOps background? So those who are from a development background, you guys can raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand feature so that I'll get to know how many are a developer. All right, I can see 3, 4, 5. Okay, we just have 5 developers with us. I guess the rest are from DevOps background or something. All right, so those, all right, great. So I'm just lowering your hands after I'm seeing who all have raised theirs. So now my next question, how many of you are familiar with different technologies? Yeah, a PHP developer is also a developer. It's not like I don't differentiate between the fact that a developer is only someone who knows the latest technology or maybe works only on Node.js or Python or Java. Even a programmer is actually a developer. There are many technologies, there are many fields where only C programming can help you. It's not just that, okay, PHP, I agree on the point that yes, it is getting outdated. It is getting like the output level of the throughput and the output of what PHP can give is not that good as compared to Node.js or Python or Java when working on this. But yes, PHP is one language with which I started my journey in web development. So, all right. So, okay, guys, I would like all of you to unmute yourself and let's have a small round of discussion. Can you all unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, how many of you are familiar with the system architecture of an application? Like, how many of you have heard about how applications are architected? What is a monolithic architecture? What is a microservice architecture? What is a serverless architecture and all these things? How many of you are familiar with this term?
Yes, I have worked on microservice.
Okay, that's good. I see one person has worked on microservices. What about the others?
No.
All right. How many of you are familiar with the cloud technologies? Cloud technologies, maybe like AWS or Google Cloud or like your Azure, or how many of you have worked on with like maybe serverless functions, Docker, Kubernetes, and all these?
Actually, I am working in multi-cloud technologies.
Oh, that's great.
Same here.
Yeah. So yeah, so I guess most of us are familiar with which technologies we are working with. So let me share my screen and introduce you guys to what is the hosting on how we can host a serverless application. So can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Great. I'll just take this outside. So yeah, now before we start to the session, let me introduce you to what is a serverless technology. So if I tell a serverless, it doesn't mean that it doesn't imply actually the absence of servers. Serverless computing doesn't mean that there are no servers existing. The only thing it means that it's like a it's like a provision for you made by different cloud service providers where they take care of the capacity provisioning for running and execution of the code which you are deploying. All you have to worry about is which code you are writing in. So serverless
Yes,
computing
absolutely.
or serverless technologies is a hot technology right now. Like it's booming in the industry. Many organizations are shifting towards this form of computing. So there are different cloud computing models known as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and now serverless computing is introduced a new model of cloud deployment known as functions as a service, that is FaaS. Okay, so the easiest way to define a serverless computing is, I would say that it takes the where out of the software development. That is like when you are developing a software, the first thing you are concerned about is where would you deploy this? What would be the capacity of the server which would run this software? How would it scale up? What are the underlying technologies required for these and all these things? So serverless computing primarily takes that out of your equation. So coming to a brief history of cloud before we start off with what serverless computing is and how it works and everything, I would like you to introduce to a brief history of how cloud works. So initially there were data centers, that is like in the 1960s to 2000s, there was a time when system administrators would prepare physical servers for the software to be deployed. This would involve like installing the operating system, making sure the device drivers are present, making sure that there is enough memory and the disk and the processor being provisioned for that application which has to run, and also ensuring that the prerequisite softwares are available. So in the 1960s, IBM had introduced the concept of virtualization, but it wasn't adopted till the late 2000s. And so in the near 2000s, 2002, 2003 year, the developers were the companies who were hosting the data centers started trying out the virtualization in a level where they started providing developers with a simulated server instead of an actual physical server. This enabled Amazon to launch their first cloud service in the form of infrastructure as a service named as EC2, which is the most commonly used service of Amazon and is also known as the backbone of the AWS. So in infrastructure as a service, all you have to do is you have to take care of that. You have to make sure the operating system, that is the infrastructure, is something which you don't need to take care of. That is the servers. Hardware is something you don't need to worry about. All you need to worry about is getting the OS installed, installing the application softwares, deploying your code and running it. Then in the near future, after 2006, by 2010, eventually cloud service providers started moving towards a newer form of cloud deployment and the cloud architecture known as the platform as a service, or the PaaS, which when compared to the infrastructure as a service, the user need not have to worry about installing the operating system, patching the application softwares, getting the software installed or anything. All the developer had to do was just install the developer had to just install the application. Like he or she had to upload the build code, and those things would be automatically deployed on the software version that has been installed by the PaaS on the servers. Then in the year 2014, the virtualization was further enhanced, and the concept of containerized virtualization started to take off. So technologies like you have a Docker, Open VZ, then LXC, FreeBSD zones, Solaris jails, all these technologies emerged. So this enabled the system administrators to section off an operating system and have different applications running on the same system without interfering with each other. Right. So containerized virtualization then further enhanced and came into the technology known as the serverless computing, that is the functions as a service. So functions as a service, the serverless computing was initially introduced by Google in 2008 when it released its Google App Engine. And for the first time, that was the time when a developer could simply develop a program and launch it in the Google Cloud without having to be concerned with the details on how the server was provisioned or if the OS required any patches or anything like that. In 2015, similarly, AWS launched a similar service known as the AWS Lambda, which enabled the serverless computing. And with serverless application deployment, one just has to worry about his or her code, and the cloud service provider takes care of the rest of the provisioning and managing of the servers, which includes operating system installation, patching, auto scaling, etc. And also the cloud service provider takes care of the application software, the software versioning, and all these things on the serverless application. With serverless computing, all you need to do is you just pay for the execution time. That is, you just pay when your function is executing. You do not pay when no one is using your functions. Right? So there are different serverless computing on different cloud providers, all known by different names, but have the underlying technology as the same. So for AWS, you have the Lambda functions. For Azure, you have the Azure functions. And for Google Cloud, you have the Google Cloud functions. So all these technologies are actually the same, but they are just known by different names in different cloud service providers. So I ask, why should we use serverless computing? Why move from the traditional way of hosting a server and moving towards not hosting a server and just developing your code? The primary reasons for moving towards serverless computing is the serverless computing is super cheap. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So serverless computing is super cheap. That means like you are not charged unnecessarily, or I would say you are not charged for the time when the functions or the resources are not being used. You only need to focus more on your code. So that means like as a developer, you need not worry about how your code would be deployed or what would be the capacity provisioning or anything like that. You only pay for the execution time. That is like you only pay for when your functions are being executed. That is when the resources are being utilized. When the time the resources are kept idle in the cloud service provider, you are not charged of anything. And the last and the final advantage of a serverless computing is the continuous scaling. By continuous scaling, I mean that as and when your requests, as and when your traffic increases or the number of requests increases, the cloud service provider automatically scales up the resources required for launching the serverless application. And at the same time, if your requests are lowering down, if the resources utilization is going low, then it goes down by that basically downscales itself, which are also taken care by the infrastructure as a service options and your the infrastructure as a service option and your platform as a service option. But that is something where you have to come into place and have to define it while creating the servers. So coming to the next topic of the day, what are microservices? Now, serverless computing enables you to create your functions and just host them on the cloud service provider. But what type of architecture do they follow? The architecture with which serverless computing follows is known as the microservice architecture. Primarily not just the microservice. If we deep dive into the microservice architecture, the exact architectural style which the serverless computing follows is known as the hexagonal architecture. that that structures an application as a collection of services enabling rapid, frequent, reliable delivery of large and complex applications. So a very simple example, as in which a very common service which most of us use these days, which is based on the microservice architecture, is Netflix. So if I date back to 2016, 2017, that was the time nearly when Netflix had introduced the microservice architecture to the whole world. So this the microservice architecture enables an organization to evolve its technology stack. So when I mean the microservice architecture, it means we are creating stateless services. The services are irrespective of the technology on which they are getting developed. That is, like, it can be a part of your service can be on Node.js, a part can be on PHP, a part can be on Python, and a part can be on Java. All these coupled together and working on the same frequency as and when required. So this gets a new question to many of the people: why microservices? So for why microservices, I would say the first point, as it is highly maintainable and testable. That is, it enables rapid and frequent deployment and development by the developers, and makes it easy for the testers to develop small packages or small services at a given point of time. Then it is loosely coupled. By loosely coupled with other services, it means that a team can work independently on majority of the time on their own service. That is, like, if let's say we are 28 participants in this call and we are creating 28 different services, each one of us can concentrate on developing the service which we are working on, meaning that we are not our services are not interrelated with each other in, like, majority of the scenarios. Each of the service is independent to the other service, and any issue which comes up in any one service does not impact the other service. So any changes to the service does not affect the other services. Then the third advantage of why we should use the microservices, or, like, not the advantage, but I would say a third reason why we should use microservices is it is independently deployable. That is, it enables a team to deploy their service without having to coordinate with any other team. So that is, like, if we are creating 28 services over here in this Zoom call, each one of us can deploy our service individually without having to be dependent on the other person, whether if they are creating or not creating their service. Then microservices are primarily organized around business capabilities and are owned by a small team. Just give me a moment, guys. Okay, so coming to what are the advantages of microservice. Microservices have a very good advantage in this cloud industry, where it enables continuous delivery and deployment of large applications. So it also improves the maintainability of the application, since each service is relatively small and easier to understand or change. Then it also provides better testability. That is, since the services are relatively small, the testing is faster as compared to a large monolithic application which has a huge amount of code and huge amount of features altogether. Then it also gives a better deployability. That is, like, each service can be individually deployed when it comes to the development environments. Then each microservice is relatively small, as I said, so it is easier for the developer to understand a different person's code. As in, like, if I have developed an application and I have developed, let's say, 10 services, and I give it to maybe, let's say, Ghazi from our team. So Ghazi, it won't take much time for Ghazi to understand those 10 functions as compared to if I give him nearly 100 functions. So I still remember when during our job, we used to create applications, and when I was working with Ghazi, I think Ghazi would also be able to relate this. We worked on a monolithic function, and when we started working on that monolithic application, the application was pre-built by some other organization, and it had come to us for improving it on the basis of the tech stack. And it took us nearly 1.5 months just to understand what code had been written, because it was not clearly documented, or the second thing was it was not well written, like it was not much understandable by both of us. So eventually, when we improved the whole application, we shifted it to microservices along with our company CTO. And when the application grew, now the application hosts nearly around 150 to 1 from one of the participants.
There is some internet glitch. We are losing you.
Hello, guys,
Hello.
am I audible?
Yeah. Now we
Sorry,
can
I
hear you.
guess I dropped.
Yeah. And before
I'm
before that,
audible.
Anush, Mukul has a question. Like microservices architect and serverless architect are same.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I was just answering to that when I was just telling that yes, we
Yeah.
have a question from one of the participants, that is the microservice architecture and the serverless architecture the same. So Mukul, I would say that no, they are not the same. The serverless architecture is a overall cloud deployment model, as in how the application is hosted on any cloud service provider, and the microservice architecture is how the application is developed and architected. So they are actually different, but yeah, the serverless application environment as the serverless application deployment enables the microservice architecture to be utilized in a better way. I hope I have answered your question. Guys, am I audible clearly,
Yes.
or
Yeah. We can hear you. And Mukul have already commented that you answered the question. And we have one more question from Sid. What is the difference between GAP and Firebase Cloud Functions? Sorry guys, I think we have lost Anush. He'll be back.
guys, I'm extremely sorry. There is some issue with my ISP today. It doesn't usually give me this much of problems. So yeah, guys, can you hear me now? I'm extremely sorry for this bad connection.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So yeah, I was telling that the serverless application development, like the serverless application architecture, basically utilizes the microservice architecture to provide better way of hosting the application, or like it just enables the microservices to be hosted in a better way, or as well as in a better format. Okay, so I think I had missed one question. I saw someone like someone had asked me a question. What is the difference between the and Google application platform? Is the difference between the Google Firebase, right? I think someone has asked this question. From
Yes, Anush. It was from Sid.
yeah. So the Google application platform is now evolved to the Google Firebase. So in the initial testing format, they had introduced the Google application platform as the serverless computing. Now it is known as the it is now known as the Firebase, which is now completely shifted to the cloud functions of the Google Cloud. Okay, I have another question. I'm using microservices for a while now, and I can't think of advantages of monolithic apps, and it is still being used. What are its advantages? So monolithic apps are primarily used for small scale applications. Like if you are running a very small application, maybe if I say a simple example of a quite a small application would be, I don't even actually have an example. Maybe let's say a small visitor management system, or maybe a tool which you might use for your own household, maybe a reminder tool which you might use for your household items. So that is the scenario where monolithic apps can be used. When application size is very much small, there is no point in going towards the microservice architecture. I guess I hope I answered your question, Arvind. Yeah. All right. So coming back to the advantages of microservice. So when I say that the microservice is, each microservice is relatively small, it means that it is easier for the developer to understand and when it comes to working with IDEs, so your integrated development environments become a bit faster when your application size is small. Your builds become fast. If you're serving with a temporary build being made, that moves on at a faster pace if the application size is small, rather than compared to a monolithic application which is way too big. Coming to the improved fault isolation, I would say that in case of, let's say, when it comes to a monolithic application, if there is a small bug in any of the function, it results in the downtime of the whole application. Like it crashes the whole application because of bug in any one application, in any one function. But when compared to the microservice architecture, it's more like if one particular service is not available, it won't affect the other services which are running on the system. And the same goes when comes the scenario of a memory leak. That is like if a memory leak is happening in one particular service, it doesn't affect the other services and just simply goes down. Like it stops working. That particular function of that service is not available for the end user, but the rest of all the services are always available. Then microservices eliminate the long-term commitment to the technology stack. That is like you can develop new services in any new technology of your wish, and while modifying your old code, you can always rewrite them in the latest technologies available. Okay, so coming to like, since nothing in this world is, I would say, nothing in this perfect world is completely perfect. So even if there are advantages of microservices, it does come with quite a few disadvantages as well. So let's have a look at the few disadvantages of microservices. So with microservices, one must deal with additional complexity of creating a distributed system. So when I talk about having a development environment, it becomes very easy for the developers to deploy their application one by one and as and when they require, and just do the easier deployments for the dev environment. But when it comes to a production environment, it's just like that you cannot deploy the services as and when required. You have to take down the whole application for some moment, maybe create a different scenario, or maybe create a mirror image of the existing application so that the application downtime doesn't come up. Deploy the new microservices all together by like, you have to create, like you have to deploy each one of them like at the same time, ensure all of them are working, and then you have to make sure that then you have to switch back to the main machine to keep the application up and running. So along with this, you also have to implement inter-service communication mechanism and deal with partial failures. Like if one microservice is unavailable, you have to deal with that fact that, okay, if only a single microservice is unavailable, how do you deal with it? Or if I say, like, you have to implement a request that span multiple services, like Like when it comes to services, let's say if I'm creating a HR portal and I wish to fetch the details of a particular employee, it might require 3 to 4 microservices to be called at the same time. So implementing these types of requests become a bit difficult when creating microservices. And testing the interactions between each of these services is a bit more complex for the QA personnel as well. Like it doesn't make it easy since they are distributed, and yeah, they have to make sure that the intercommunication is taken care of properly or not. All right. So yeah, I have one more question. How do we deal with the scaling of microservices? So Akash, basically microservices are hosted using either a containerized deployment or maybe on a serverless function, primarily of these things. So there is a horizontal auto scaling and there is a vertical auto scaling. So when they are containerized by Dockers, when you have the horizontal auto scaling, the Kubernetes engine or maybe any other Dockerized the container orchestration service scales up the request as and when the utilization has reached up the default threshold percentage. It scales up or it scales down as and when the requirement comes in. And then you have the vertical auto scaling, wherein vertical scaling or the vertical auto scaling of your own servers, which enables it in such a way that as and when the resources inside your particular environment are getting full, they scale up and they increase the number of environments, and they are handled via the load balancer set up in the cloud service provider. Okay, so yeah, I see quite a few have answered Akash as well, that how the scaling has done. Yeah, now, and the last disadvantage of microservice, last but not the least, yeah, it's the microservices also have a increased memory consumption. So the microservice architecture primarily replaces n number of monolithic architectures. If you all agree to this, there are let's say if a single monolithic application takes m amount of memory, when coming to the microservice architecture, it has replaced the one monolithic application with n monolithic microservices. So each now takes they are running on services or instances like JVMs or any equivalent, which is usually required to isolate the instances, and then there is an overhead of the m times as many instances that are being created. So if I take the scenario of each microservice running on a single virtual machine, maybe like EC2 or a Google Cloud instance or a Azure instance, then which was the case of Netflix initially, like they used to have the microservices in such a way that each of their microservice was hosted in a particular EC2 instance. So this overhead becomes more high, and this also increases the cost with which you are with which you are dealing. So when you come up to the serverless architecture, this sometimes reduces the cost as well. But if there are a lot of queries happening simultaneously on your serverless function, it sometimes becomes costlier for you as well. Okay, is there increased latency when intercommunication between services? Yeah, so obviously when services are communicating with each other, or not even if not even with each other, but even if in a single service, if you have a lot of complexity of code, like as in like the multiple database queries and multiple system queries and all these things, when it comes to these sort of things, yes, the application does become a bit heavy. The APIs do respond in a slower amount of time. So yeah, it becomes a bit difficult on this point, but yeah, majorly the inter-service communication is utilized to reduce this latency as much as possible. And since they are primarily hosted in this within the same network or are majorly in the same local host, the communication doesn't matter that much, and the response time is quite low, even in ms, that is the milliseconds. Okay, so now coming to the practical part of today's workshop, we'll now create our own application and we'll host it using the Amazon S3. We'll create our user pools, that is our user registration, user sign in, sign up using the Amazon Cognito user pools. Then we'll create our serverless backend using the AWS Lambda backed by the DynamoDB as the serverless database, which will then be served by the Amazon API gateway. So no, not exactly a total of hardly $0.025 would come as a bill for your AWS if you perform this whole activity, but majority would be like you won't be getting any bill as such. Like I've been using serverless architecture for developing small applications just for testing purposes, and the maximum bill I could get in a month was $1 when I had around it was somewhere around 10,000 users who were using my application just to test it. So that was the time I got a bill of $1 and not more than that. So you won't be charged as such, but yeah, it's just a buffer. I'm telling you that a maximum of 0.25 or 25 cents would come up in your billing if you host this application. So before we go ahead for the application development, I'm sharing you a GitHub link which you can use to clone the application which I've created for the easier development of this workshop. So we have a Angular application which can be utilized for the front end, and we have a serverless backend which is created using a serverless application package on the node npm serverless application package. So if I tell serverless.com, this is the platform which is being used. That is this is the framework which is being used to develop the backend of this workshop. So yes, Mukul, yes, we will be uploading the recording to the YouTube channel of IO Combats. You can view it from there. The whole workshop would be available over there. So before we start, I would request all of you to head over to GitHub and clone this, both the Angular, that is the UI repository, and the serverless backend repository. Yeah, so UI when created is not primarily serverless, but when hosted in a serverless method, it can become a serverless. So when we are hosting the UI using S3 or maybe AWS Amplify, they both provide a serverless architecture that they are automatically scaled. The provisioning is taken care by the cloud service provider, that is like your AWS, and it becomes, you only pay for when they are being utilized. So when we host this whole application together, yes, it becomes a complete serverless application, inclusive of the fact that, yes, you have your DynamoDB, which is running as a serverless database as well. So guys, once you all clone your repositories, please let me know, and let me know if you have installed the prerequisites, that is the Angular, the serverless framework, Node.js, and all these things. And also, I would like you all to head over to the AWS CLI and download this, and you might have to authenticate it using your AWS credentials on using your IAMS AWS credential. Yeah, so as and when you are done with creating these or cloning these repositories and installing the prerequisites and everything, please raise your hands or maybe ping me in the chat so that I can proceed ahead with doing the development. I would be waiting for everyone to let me know once they are done with cloning and installing the prerequisites and setting up their AWS CLI. So once you install your AWS CLI, you can use the command AWS configure to provide the CLI with your API keys and user keys, which you create in your IAM, so that we can use the serverless framework to upload the code directly to your Lambda functions. It's okay. Gorgeous, you can take your time to set up the AWS, and once it is done, then we'll proceed ahead so that it becomes easier for you all to deploy the application to the Lambda. Arvind, for now, you can create the IAM role as a administrative role. That would do more than enough. So like since it's in your own local system, the administrative IAM role would suffice it. But yeah, if you're using it for a external service, like maybe if you are putting that IAM credentials on a EC2 instance or somewhere, then you'll have to specify the roles for specifically set to the services which you are using for. So for our application service which we are developing today, we would be using the AWS cloud formation, the Lambda, and the DynamoDB, and the API gateway. So these are 4 services which we might utilize. Yeah, so if you guys wish, I can show you how you can configure the programmatic access to the AWS CLI. So I'll just show you how you can configure the AWS CLI with your programmatic access. So I opened my AWS console, that is console.aws.amazon.com. I'll just sign in. So I go to IAM. IAM is available under your security and compliance. In your IAM, you just have to go to your users. So you go to users on your left and you add a user. So in this, you can type in any username which you wish to, maybe like I can say AWS CLI. You enable a programmatic access, and give your permissions. You can you go to attach existing policies, and you can simply check on the administrator access. You can go ahead and give your tags. Just simply create your user. As soon as you create your user, you will get a API key and API secret, which you have to configure on your command prompt. That is, if I go and type in AWS configure, so I have to you paste in your access key ID over here, your secret access key over here. Define your region name. If all of you are from India, you can define your region name as AP-South-1. That is for the Mumbai region. And your default output format can be a table or a JSON, whatever you wish you feel like to be. Once it is done, we can proceed ahead with creating the serverless application and creating the different scenarios. So as and when you guys are completing with your setup for the prerequisites of this workshop, please raise your hands. I'll lower once I acknowledge that you have done your setup for this practical implementation. Yeah, a power user is also okay if you wish to use. If you are a student access, that is like, I guess you are given a sub account in your IAM, or how is it, Akash? Have you signed up using a student ID on your AWS account, or is it like your faculty owns the ID and has given you a sub user for that AWS account?
What we need to select in permissions boundary?
So in permissions, you can primarily select the administrative access, because since you are putting these access key and secret access key in your own local system itself.
There is another field like set permissions boundary. So I'm getting two options: create user without a permissions boundary and use a permissions boundary.
Like you are here in IAM, and so you go to users, you add a user and you set your name. You select programmatic access, and you have the option from, you select attach existing policies, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I selected administration access.
Yeah, and you click on next
and
attack.
Okay. We don't need to select anything in the
No, you don't need it. So once you select, no, you don't need to do that. So permission boundary is primarily used for defining till where the administration access is limited to. So for now, we don't need to do that. So once you have created your IAM user, head over to your command prompt, type in CMD. And once you have installed your AWS CLI, type in the command AWS configure. And once you have created your user, please make sure that you note down the access key ID and the AWS secret access key, because they are just displayed once. If you do not copy those ID and secret access key, then you might lose the account access. You might have to create new access variables for the individual user. So when you type in AWS configure, you can see that you have the option to enter your AWS access key, the secret access key, the region, and your default output format, which wherein can be created as in like it's a table or a JSON or anything, whatever is comfortable to you. And I'm hoping everyone who has not yet raised their hand is ready with their environments so that we can go ahead and perform the initial activity of our application. So I'll wait for a few more minutes, maybe 4 to 5 minutes more. Once and I would hope that everyone would have been done with their deployment, or I would have been ready with their environment readiness. Yeah, so if you wish to use a different user for this CLI, you can again run the AWS configure command, and you can put in the new access ID and the secret access key, and it will configure your AWS CLI according to the new user. Yeah, so for specific region, it's just the AWS region ID which you have. So it's more like, since we all are majorly from India, so we would be using the India region code. That is for Mumbai, it is AP South 1. If you wish to use your, if you wish to host your application in any of the other AWS region, you can type in the region code for that AWS region. So, all right, let's start with the application development for our serverless application, which we are going to develop. So I hope you all have a IDE installed on your system. I would request you all to open the UI and the backend on a IDE. You can use any development environment like the Visual Studio or maybe Sublime Text, or the preferred one, which I primarily prefer on my behalf, is the JetBrains WebStorm. It's a paid IDE though, but it is quite powerful for developing JavaScript-based applications. So I've opened up my source code. Let me know once everyone has the source code open. So once we have the once you have your UI code open, you may like raise your hands itself. So I'll go ahead with configuring our primary prerequisites and developing further development of this application. All right, so I want all of you to log into your AWS management console and head over to the AWS Cognito, which comes under your security, identity, and compliance. So you can see there is an option for Cognito. Open AWS Cognito. So we would be using the AWS Cognito to manage our user pools and identity pools, where user would register, log in, and all the user details would be stored in this particular AWS service. So we click on manage user pools. Also, I would request you guys, if I'm going a bit too fast, please let me know. I would be happy to slow down a bit. So when I go to user pools, I click on create a user pool. All right, sorry. Okay, I go back to AWS Cognito. Yeah. So guys, what we can do is whoever is performing along with me, you guys can unmute yourself and you guys can like talk to me as and when at which state you are in. So that would be a bit easier for me so to know if everyone is following or not.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So whoever's working along with me, whoever is performing this practical, I would love if you guys unmute yourself and we can do this.
Yeah, Anush. Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
Yeah. So, all right. So we are here at the AWS user pool screen, where usually this is empty. When we click on the manage user pools, this empty screen, and we just click on the create user pool button on the top. So once you have reached here, let me know. We'll proceed with the next steps.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So now we type in our pool name. Maybe let's say I'll say this is the serverless workshop. So this user pool would be known as the serverless workshop user pool for me. And I click on step through settings. So once we are in this screen, we will have the user to log in only via their email address. So we click this option and we click on allow email address only. And we check the enable case insensitivity for the user input, which enables the user to type in their email address either in all caps or all small or even in a capital case or some format like that. So it won't differentiate between the case insensitive cases, like it won't differentiate between the different cases of the username input. Then the standard attributes which we would require for the user to input in their during the registration would be like, let's say we'll just take the name of the user and we'll take the email address. I guess we won't require anything else as of now for the user to register, but we'll just go ahead. So we click on the next step.
I think you missed email.
Email is already important since it is like being utilized for the registration of the username.
Okay.
So you can check the email if you wish. Yeah, but any which ways you would be providing the email address. All right. So yeah, we click on next and we come to the password policy of our application, wherein we say that what should be the minimum length of the password which the user is for when the user is registering, or even if the administrator is creating a user. What are the what all does the password require? It requires a number, a special character. It should have both uppercase and lowercase characters. And then we define how quickly the password should expire when the user is created by an administrator. So I say after 7 days of a user being created by an administrator, the password would expire. Going to the next step, I have the option to enable multi-factor authentication. So how many of you are familiar with the multi-factor authentication, where we use either the Google Authenticator or maybe a two-step verification by SMS-based OTPs or something?
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. So when you use these types of multi-factor authentications, you have the option for enabling them in the AWS Cognito as well. And when you set it as optional or either required, so if you set it as required, then user compulsorily has to enable the multi-factor authentication. But if you set it as optional, then they have an option to choose if they want to enable or disable. So for now, let's say I'll select it
So
as
one
optional.
question.
Yeah.
Is there any costing difference that occurs for us by providing them MFA?
Yeah, so when you are providing them MFA, if you are using a application like the Google Authenticator or any token-based authentication password application, then there is no costing which comes in this Cognito. But if you are having the SMS-based, OTP-based 2FA, then cost for your just incur in your AWS account. Okay, so maybe I select the time-based one-time password OTP. So like this won't require any SMS or anything. Then I have the option on how the user will be able to recover their account. Wherein I select that if the email is available, then the user should use their email. Else, if the email is not available, then user can use their mobile phones. But we are not allowing the user to reset their password using their mobile phone if they are using it for their multi-factor authentication as well. So this is the best available option, because like though we have the email address as a compulsory field, but if we go back and set our login credentials as user can log in using their email, their phone, or a custom made username, then in that case this is the best possible choice which a user gets. Then we have for verification of the user, we select which attributes we wish to verify. Like we want to verify the email, we want to verify the phone number, we want to verify the email or the phone number. So when we select this, if the user signs up with both a phone number and the email address, the AWS Cognito will only verify the phone number at the initial phase. Then to manually verify the email address, the user has to go in and follow the next steps accordingly. So for now, we'll select only the email because we are not recording the phone number of the users. So I click on next. So has everyone reached this screen where we have the option to customize our email addresses?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so at this point of time now, when we are signing up a user, we have it's a very good option if we set up our welcome emails via our own customized domain. So we can use our simple email service by AWS, that is the SES, to send in emails on our behalf, and these emails would would not land up in the junk mailbox or something of the application. All right, so but at the same time, since we are creating a development-based environment, we are selecting only the Cognito user email configuration, which allows us around 25 emails per hour or something. So, but for production level applications, you should prefer to choose the Amazon SES, wherein you configure your email and the from ARNs and everything to send emails on your behalf. Then going ahead, you have the option to customize your email verification emails, like you have what subject you wish to type in, how your verification code would be sent, or if you wish to have a link-based verification, you can have the link type of verification sent. You can replace this whole email message with a complete HTML-based messaging, so to provide a beautified message, a beautified email on the client's machine. And then similarly, when if admin signs up a user, what type of message would be sent to that user is what you can configure over here. So I'm not changing any of this as of now, but if anyone of you wishes to change it, you just have to make sure that these 4 hashes between the angle brackets are what you have to ensure to keep in your email message, so that the verification code lands properly to the user. So for now, we click on next step, and could you please review? Yeah, I'll sure. So I'll come back to that when I reach the final steps, Prabhakar. Will that be fine?
Sure,
Or
sure.
do you want me to go back at this very moment?
No.
Yeah, all right, okay. So now we have the option to tag our user pool. So tagging basically helps us to identify which AWS resources is used for which particular purpose or anything. So we can create custom tags, we can write in descriptions or who created it and all those things to make it better. So for now, we are not, I'm not tagging my user pool as of now. Then I have my option to remember my user's devices or not. So I say that I'll allow my user to opt in if they wish to have their devices remembered. Then I have this the scenario where I have to create a app client which will have access to this user pool. So I create my app client named as Serverless Workshop. And in this app client, I uncheck the generate client secret token because like this is not currently supported by the AWS authentication, password based authentication, which we have. So I just simply click on create app client and I click on next step. The AWS Cognito also comes in with a customized workflows, which creates a triggers wherein you can call different Lambda functions upon a particular activity that is being done, like before the sign up, before the authentication, if a custom message is required, after the authentication, what are the different auth challenges and all these things. If you wish to create any Lambda function before these things, you can do that on a custom basis. Now you can simply click on next. So now once you finally created, you can see that all your resources will be shown up over here. So Prabhakar, you wanted to see the user attribute screen before going for review?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see this user attribute screen, like we selected email address or phone number for sign in, allowing only the email address. We disabled the case insensitivity for the username input. And I forgot one input. So guys, can you all come back to your attribute screen? Yeah. So once in your attribute screen, let's add a new attribute, a customized attribute, which is known as the roles. So for this role, it is like for our application, which we are creating, we have two different roles. We have the admin role and we have the user role. So I click that, I go to review. I have my custom attributes known as role, and I click on create user pool. So as soon as my pool is created, you can see that I have my user pool ready. I have my pool ID, I have my pool ARN available with me. And down below here in my app clients, I have my app client ID as well available. If I click on show details, and if I see the set attribute read write permission, you can see that I'll have to enable this custom roles to be read and written by the user pool app client. So if you are all done with till this level, let me know. We'll go ahead with configuring our serverless application for before getting to host it on the AWS S3.
Done.
Done. Great.
So one question, where this that serverless site will came into the play?
So yeah, so now the serverless site will come into play when we completely configure all our details and host it on the AWS, then and host it on S3 or maybe Amplify, then it comes into play. So just now we are going to start working with the code part of our application. So let's open our IDEs, and in your IDE and the serverless UI, you see a folder under SRC which shows the environments file. So in the environment.ts and the environment.prod.ts, you see I have kept two different placeholders which say that it should be the Cognito pool ID and the Cognito pool app ID. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now replace this with the Cognito pool ID which you have in your, which you have for your Cognito pool which you created just now. And the Cognito pool app ID would be the Cognito secrets ID. Like if you go to app clients, you see the app client ID, copy that and paste it over here. So for now, you can copy paste both of these and replace it in the environment.ts and environment.prod.ts. So have you guys done this?
So we need to place the pool ID and the client ID, right?
Yes. Keep the same in both production as well as the environment.ts, environment.prod.ts and environment.ts.
If you won't mind, can you show me where we get the client ID?
Yeah, sure. So you get your client ID in your Cognito pool. If you go to app clients over here on the left.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, then.
Yeah. Is it done from everyone?
Yes.
Great. So now we have our pool ID ready. We have our client ID ready. Now what we can do is we can simply go to our terminal and we can start write npm run start. It will launch the Angular application to be deployed to your browser. So as soon as your application is compiled, you will get the the URL for your local application hosted at localhost:4201. I've sent that URL on chat.
Uh, Sorry to interrupt. Do we have any build process like to install the node modules?
Yeah, you'll have to type in npm install to install all the node modules. I hope you have Angular CLI installed on your system so that your npm start would work.
Yeah.
Anush, when you created that user pool, that was in a different region. So if I change the region, so that pool will be available in that region or not?
No, it won't be. You'll have to recreate the whole user pool. So did you create it in some different region by some mistake?
No, actually by default, Ohio was selected. So
All right, it's okay. You can delete that user pool and recreate it again.
okay.
Yeah. Or even if you require, if you wish, you can keep the user pool from Ohio region as well. It won't affect you much. It's
Anush,
just the
so yeah, so you're saying it should be pool ID should be south, right? So but by default, what I got was I guess
I think yours would be US East 2.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that is
So
your region is selected as Ohio.
yeah, so is there any problem with that?
No, it's not actually any problem, but it's just that
Mm-hmm.
it would have a increased latency. This Cognito user pool when hosted at US. So when it comes to application development for different countries, there are
Okay.
specific laws governing any application development. Like for
Okay.
Europe, this law is commonly known as the GDPR.
Okay.
So the GDPR of Europe says that the user data of any country in Europe should not leave that country. So in that
Okay.
case, when you are hosting your application, maybe a
Mhm.
serverless application in, let's say, Germany or United Kingdoms, at
Mm.
that point of time, you have to just select the region where you have that specific, like maybe if it's United Kingdom, you have to select the London region. If it's Germany, you have to select Frankfurt region, and that in that way. So that is
Okay.
the only thing that matters. Like rest, it's fine.
This is fine. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So while we are configuring in the command prompt, so in that case, the user which we created earlier, AWS CLI, so that we can use in that region, Ohio region, right?
See, the IAM users and the IAM roles which are created, they are globally available.
Okay.
They are not region specific. Yeah, but yes, I think you might have to recreate your user pool because your Lambda function would be hosted in the Mumbai region as we configured Mumbai in our CLIs, and your user pools are configured on the Ohio region. So I would just suggest that you can prefer deleting your user pool from here, from this, and you can recreate one in the Mumbai region so that you have the better latency, and we reduce down the risk part of this, that it might get failed.
Just out of curiosity, if we are making a global app, so how are we considering the GDPR and any other rules like that?
So yeah, when you are creating a global application, obviously you have different rules and you have to store different every country has its own rules. So maybe when it comes in, like maybe you have to set up your Cognito user pools in multiple different regions and work accordingly in that way. So like for Europe, you will have to create a Cognito user pool in every country. For Asia, you can create in like you're creating in every possible region the resources, and accordingly then you have the Route 53 traffic policies where you can have the geolocation based traffic policy that if someone comes from Europe, they would be redirected to the Europe version of the website. If they come from Asia, they would be redirected towards the Asia version of the website. If they come in from US, they would be redirected towards the US version of the website. Or you can also have the load balancers playing this part for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So has everyone launched their application on Angular?
Yes.
Yeah, everything's ready. All right, so you guys can see this screen when you open localhost :4201 in your browsers. Yeah. All right. So so we'll go to our registration page, but before creating a registration, we'll have to make a small change in our application code. So head over to your app folder, and inside your app folder, you have a shared folder under which you have services and you have the authorization service created. So in the authorization service, line number 117, you see the registration function, which has the user role hard-coded as the user. So you can change it as admin because the first user which you would be creating for your application should be an admin user, right? So we hardcode this as the admin, and it automatically gets recompiled, and this code is available for you to do your registration. So let's say I'll perform my registration as a Swaminathan. My email ID would be there. I'm using a disposable email ID for now. I type in a password which satisfies the condition which I have defined, and I click on register. So as I click on register now, it gives me a prompt to enter my verification code. So if I open my email, you can see that I receive a verification code from Cognito. I copy it and I paste it over here. So as soon as I click my verification code, it shows me something like this. Currently, this application won't be working, but just for my user to be registered, I have it in place. And I simply log out. So how many of you have followed me till here?
Yeah.
You can type in
Yes, sir.
chat that you're done, or you can raise your hand as well. Or if you have any queries, feel free to type it in the chat.
Yeah, if you won't mind, I'm getting unable to register and the client attempted to write unauthorized attribute.
Yeah, so for that, when you created, so if I go back to your attributes of your user pools, did you create your custom attribute of roles? Did you create a role attribute named as role? Remember, you need not prefix this custom. It will automatically be prefixed by Cognito.
Yes, that one is added.
That is added. So now if you go back to your app clients and you click on show details, and if you scroll down and set the attribute read and write permissions, did you check on both for this particular app client?
Yeah, writable is not checked.
Yeah, so you need to check that as well and save your app client and then try.
Yes,
Anush,
it is working.
Yeah.
Anush, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, if I want to add another attribute, so what I have to do? Like alternate phone
Which
number I
attribute?
have to add. Like
Okay, so you
alternate
need
phone
to add
number.
it out. Yes, so you already have the phone number attribute in the user pools and you wish to add a new attribute named as alternate phone number. So you can click on add
Yeah.
another attribute and type in, like, let's say alternate underscore phone. So when you create this attribute, this will be used to store your alternate phone numbers if required.
Okay. And what about validation?
So phone number validations are like to verify this phone number, you'll need to perform that. Like maybe you need to, if someone is trying to store their alternate phone number, what you can do is you can take the value of phone number in their primary Cognito user field, that is this, and you can save it in this alternate phone number value, and you can store the new phone number over here so that it gets validated well by the AWS Cognito itself. Else, for validation of a phone number, you'll have to use the SNS, that is the simple notification service, to send in a email address to send in an OTP to the end user with a specific time and get it verified by the user manually.
Okay.
Do we have regex expressions too?
In Cognito validation,
Yes.
kind of, yes. So when you select this type, you have your, it's either a number or it's either a string. You just have these things. Rest, the validations for validating the user attributes have to be done via the UI or via the service through which you are creating the user.
Okay.
So has everyone been able to register their admin user?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, all right, so I come back and you see your application is nearly ready now. Now what we have to do is we'll hold on for a moment and we'll open up our serverless backend. That is, I'll open the serverless workshop folder, which I created using serverless. I'll perform a npm install in that. And after my npm install, you can see that there are two different folders in the serverless workshop. One is named as Python and one is named as Node.js. Can you see that? Hello? How many of you are here and have their serverless workshop code opened up in front of them?
Yeah. Opening.
Yeah, all right.
Can you repeat the console? Have you done any console step till now?
No, I haven't done yet.
Okay.
I just opened the serverless workshop folder and I typed in the command npm installs.
Okay.
Yeah. So now there are different files in the serverless application folder. One is your serverless.yaml file. Then you have your folder which is named as Node, and one folder named as Python, both having two files, one for feedback, one for users, in the JavaScript format and in the Python format. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yeah. So now coming to the first, let's open up the serverless.yaml file. And in this file, you will see what do you wish to name this service as. Maybe like I named it as serverless workshop. If you want, you can name it whatever you wish to. Then in the provider, you can set which cloud provider you wish to deploy this serverless website on. So the serverless framework, it not only just supports the AWS cloud service, it supports all the different service providers. Like it supports Google Cloud, it supports Azure, and any other services. All right. So for now, I have selected the provider name as AWS because we are developing it on AWS Lambda. Then I have my different stage where I set that my stage for now is the development stage. I can say it as dev, I can say it as development, or I can say as prod or anything. So I'll keep it as dev for now. Then I define my region where I wish to deploy this Lambda function in. So I select my region to be AP South 1, that is Mumbai. If I scroll down, these are some sample text, these are some sample configurations made available by the serverless itself. I just kept it uncommented for that so that you guys can have a look at them. And in case you wish to use these functions, you can utilize them as well. But for now, I'm not using any one, so I can remove this as well. Then I have my environment variable for this microservice. So for my environment variables, I would need my user pool ID, which is being utilized by a few functions in this. So I head back to my AWS and I copy my pool ID and I paste it over here. So is everyone along with me here?
Yes.
Yeah. What about others? Tayyab, Divagar,
Yes.
Gurjas, Prabhakar, you guys with me?
Yeah.
Arvind, right? All right, great. So now if you come down further below, you will see that we have the functions definitions, that is the different functions which we are creating here. So in this, you see the authorizer part. Any guesses why would I keep this authorizer over here? Like what does this authorizer mean? So this authorizer basically means that these Lambda functions cannot be called without actually being authorized by a Cognito user pool. So this ARN is what we have to copy from our Cognito user pool ARN. We copy this and we need to replace the ARNs everywhere I have the authorizer ARN set up. So in this whole file, you can select individual or you can just simply hit Control-H and start replacing them. Make sure you do not replace this role ARN. This is a different thing. I am coming to that in a few moments. Simply I just paste it over here and I replace all. So I have replaced all my authorizer ARNs with the Cognito user pool ARN, which I just created right now. Now, for a Lambda function to execute in our AWS Lambda, it also requires some specific roles so that it can simply it can publish the logs to CloudWatch, or it can give you it can access specific functions of the AWS. So what we do now is we go to our AWS console and we go to IAM, And so you guys will have to let me know once you guys are in IAM, because we have to create a custom role for our Lambda function to take up. General settings. General settings as in like, sorry Arvind, I couldn't get you.
No. Good, just ask from where to copy that ARM.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's done. Yeah, thanks, Arvind.
Okay.
So all right, so everyone is there in their AWS IAM dashboard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So now you see the option over here on the left for the user roles. You see that? You click that and you click on create role. So in the role, you select which AWS service would utilize the role. I would select the AWS Lambda. Go to my permissions. So in my permissions, I will select, you can search for Lambda basic, AWS Lambda basic execution role. So you can see this, right? So you can select that, click on tags. Maybe say the name is Serverless workshop Lambda role. Type in any tags. I go to review. I say my name as, okay, this is the Serverless Lambda role. I click on create. So let me know once you guys have created the serverless Lambda roles.
Which role did you select? Lambda?
Yeah, I selected the AWS Lambda basic execution role.
Yeah, can you just repeat? So you will just have to go to your roles, right?
Yeah, you have to go to roles. You have to click on create. Once you create, in the policy, you have to select the AWS Lambda basic execution roles. The role will be used by the common, in the common use cases, you will select the AWS Lambda to take up that role. Are we done, guys?
Uh, Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have done this AWS Lambda execution role, and after that, I'm getting this summary,
Yes.
policy here, and yeah, that's right.
So yes, so I'll come back and create one more. I'll recreate this
Yeah.
role so that So I click on create, I select Lambda, select my permissions, Lambda basic execution roles. I click on next tags, review this. I guess you are here in this screen, right?
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so we just
So you can name your role whatever you wish to. Serverless Lambda or something. You can create your roles.
okay.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has done this. Shall we move ahead? All right, let's move ahead. So now this serverless Lambda execution role, it requires a new policy. Now we have allowed it to execute different roles for within the Lambda function, but now it needs access to the AWS Cognito user pool as well, right? So you see when you click on the role name on that, the first screen in the permission screen, you will see an option for adding an inline policy. So click on that. In the policy service, search for Cognito and select Cognito. Cognito identity is, I guess, for your user. I think, yes, we select the Cognito identity. So in the Cognito identity, we select all the actions though, and in the, okay, sorry, it's not Cognito identity, it's Cognito user pool. Sorry. And you say that you'll allow all the user pool actions within the Cognito user pool. And in the resources, you'll add the ARN to restrict the access to your user pool. So you'll need to copy the user pool ARN, which you had pasted in your serverless backend, and you paste it up over here. All right. So let me know once you guys have reached this level. So are you guys here now? Have you reached this step? Or is anyone lost in between?
Can you open that serverless.yaml file?
Sorry?
That serverless.yaml file.
Yeah, okay, I have my serverless.yaml file here.
So here only in authorizer I have to add that ARN.
Yes, so wherever I have the authorizer set, you need to write the ARN.
In all the functions, create user, get users.
Yes, in all the functions, right. So are we done till here? Can I have the confirmation a bit quick? So I add this Cognito user pool and I click on review policy. And I name this policy as Cognito user pool admin. And I click on create policy. So have you guys done it? Let me know. I'll move to the next step.
Yes.
Yeah, done. Great. Okay, Tayyab, I'm waiting.
Please wait. I'm doing that.
Yeah, sure. Take your time. No hurries.
So, if you won't mind, can you tell us the difference between role and policies on user?
Okay, so what are roles, what are users, and what are policies? So every user is basically a person who would be accessing a person or a program that would be accessing this particular AWS resource and gets the permissions. Policies basically define which permission are you giving to that particular user of that particular role. And when it comes to roles are something are basically identities that are taken up by different AWS resources like S3 or maybe Lambda or maybe EC2 or any other functions, so that they can interact with other AWS services without getting authenticated with a specific user access key ID or a access key secret.
Oh,
Okay.
so
Yes.
instead of it is identified by a user, we are uh, giving them the access to use the other resources.
Correct. So when you create a role, it is just for a specific AWS resource to access different other AWS services.
Okay.
You don't need to authenticate them with the specific user if you have. So like you don't need to create more and more users and not and authenticate them every time you access the service. All right. So we have our Cognito user pool admin ready over here. And we have this AWS role ARN. So what you can do is from the top, copy this AWS role ARN and copy this AWS role ARN from here and just simply go to your serverless.yaml file. And in that, you would see a line like maybe in 56, line numbers 70 and all these places, you will see a role and you'll see the ARN mentioned for that role. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just replace this role with the role ARN with your own role ARN, which you just created now. Replace it and save it. And let me know once done. So we'll go ahead and deploy our APIs to the AWS Lambda using this serverless function. So has everyone replaced their role ARNs? All right, great. So I see code just done, Arvind done. What about others? Parker done, Akshay done, great. So we all are ready. So yeah, now open up your command prompt inside the serverless workshop folder and run the command npm run deploy. So I type in this command npm run deploy. So once you run this command, you will see that it will automatically package this whole service, create a CloudFormation template. So CloudFormation template is basically used for creating different user services and then hosting it uh, on the creating the map of how these services would be deployed and then putting them in the AWS region. So as per Lambda functions and whatever resources are being utilized. So can you all see that is your Lambda function being uploaded to the CloudFormation template and the artifacts are being uploaded to the S3? Yeah. So
Anush,
guys,
quick question.
yes.
This is Diwakar. Can we use a Terraform in place of CloudFormation template? Is this possible?
Terraform, maybe like if the serverless framework allows
Yeah.
it, I guess then you would be able to use it. I don't know if it allows it or not. We'll have to see that. So
Okay, no
this,
issues. We don't want to break the flow. We can maybe discuss that later if you want.
yeah, you can like we can do that, but at the same time, this is just a in general framework which has been developed by someone, and we are just using it to make our deployments easy. Initially, like primarily how we deploy our Lambda functions is the native way is to go to Lambda, create individual function, define the individual roles for every function, and write in the code for every individual function. Like if you see here, if I select my code, I can type in the code for every individual Lambda function from here, and then I create it. All right, Diwakar, I think this solves your query, like why the
Ye-
CloudFormation is being used. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
used to use, if
yeah,
you
Anush.
wish to use the Terraform, that and then you can use that as well. It's not something which is like stopping you. Like you can use any ways to do that. Right? It's
Yeah,
just
Anush.
the
Yeah,
ultimate end goal is to upload the code on Lambda in this format,
yeah. Got it.
right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So how many of you have your codes uploaded and you see this as the process end? Yeah, so I see Arvind has done it. What about others? They have done. Others, is it done? Shall we move ahead? I'm still waiting. Anyone to reply? Okay, I see Ghazi has done it. Right, Abhinav done. Great. So, all right, let's move ahead. So now what you guys need to do is select this URL, which you see here. Can you see this URL which says HTTPS with some ID dot execute API dot your region dot Amazon AWS.com followed by your environment which you have defined. So copy this URL and go to the environment.ts and environment.prod.ts of your Angular UI and replace this URL in the base URL. Make sure there is no trailing space or any sort of space in the end or in the beginning. So replace these URLs over here.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Is there any other way to get the URL, because I got my terminal closed for?
No issues. So the next way to get your URLs is open your AWS Management Console. And if you scroll down to network and content delivery, you will see the option for API gateway.
Yes.
So open your API gateway. And in your API gateway, you will see your application name, like with the environment name, like Dev Serverless Workshop for me. So when you click on that,
Sorry, where?
so you reached your API gateway.
Yes.
So you can see these a list of APIs which are there in your API gateway, the number of API gateways which are created in your account.
Yeah, I can't see any. I think I need to run deploy again. I'll check.
Right. Okay. So which region, Arvind, did you deploy the API? So which region did you configure your AWS CLI?
Asia, AP,
South one. And when you are having a look at your API gateway, is the region set to Mumbai or is it some other?
Yeah, it is set to Ohio. Okay, my bad.
Okay, so you'll have to set it to Mumbai and you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, it's available.
It's available. So when you click on this, on the left hand side, you will see an option for stages. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, click on stages and click on your dev stage. So you'll
Yes.
see the invoke URL over here. So copy this invoke URL
Yes.
and you can paste it over here and make sure to end your URL with a slash.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So everyone has replaced their URLs in the configuration file for Angular. So, all right, let's move ahead. Let's revisit our authorization service where we had hard-coded the user registration value to admin and reset it to user and save it. So now guys, we have our UI completely ready. We have a admin user in place. We have set up our user pools and we have deployed our backend to the end server. There is one thing yet left. What is it? Do you guys think? We have done everything. There is one thing left from the architecture, which we had discussed in the starting. We have not yet created our DynamoDB tables. So what we do is we go to our AWS consoles. Under services, under databases, you see DynamoDB. So you can open up the DynamoDB. You can click on create tables and let me know once you guys are here in this screen. I'll walk you guys through the DynamoDB, what DynamoDB is, or what are the advantages of using DynamoDB, how it is powerful, how it is better than other NoSQL databases and everything. All right, so everyone is at DynamoDB. I'm waiting for you all. All right, great. So here in the DynamoDB table, so what is DynamoDB? DynamoDB is very much similar to your to any database which we use on our day-to-day life. It's a serverless database wherein the capacity provisioning, the hardware patching, the software patching, everything is taken care by AWS. All you have to do is just create your tables and set up the partition key, primary key, and all those things. And you handle up to 30 trillion requests per day and has a maximum throughput of 20 million requests per second. Yeah, so it has a 30 trillion requests per day and 20 million requests per second throughput. The DynamoDB also supports the ACID transactions. I hope everyone is familiar with the term ACID transaction. The atomicity, isolation, the consistency, and the durability. These four features of any DBMS. So it's very much similar in the relational database, but ACID properties are followed by the DynamoDB as well. And then you have your the DynamoDB doesn't allow you to actually follow the relational database part. It's a complete NoSQL non-relational database. It is completely unstructured. The DynamoDB tables contain multiple items, and each item is a combination of attributes. So for our application, what we'll do is we'll create our table with the name of feedbacks with the F capital. We'll have to follow this naming convention because when we deployed our API, in every file, if you open up in every feedback file, you'll see that the table name is mentioned as feedbacks over here. So the table name which is mentioned over here is what has to be mentioned in the DynamoDB as well. All right, for my account, I guess it exists. All right, so I have feedbacks, and in my primary key, I say it as feedback ID. F and I capital for both of them. So this key is very much same to the key which I have mentioned in the serverless backend. So I name it as feedback ID. Then in the table settings, we have an option to change our to create more secondary indexes. These indexes are usually paid for DynamoDB. Then we can increase our read-write capacities. So every unit is a strong, consistent read per second, like up to 4 kilobytes in the read format and 1 kilobyte in write format. So we can, like, for now, we can just set up everything to be as a default setting and create this table. So once this table is created, you will see, if you scroll down, you will see the table ARN available. So can you all see that? How many of you have created your table? Did I go way too fast before creating the table, or is it fine? Because we are kind of in the final steps of this workshop. Maybe I would have gone a bit too fast. Maybe I would have gone a bit too slow. I don't know. Like, let me know if everyone is here. Yeah. So copy this ARN, and now since the DynamoDB table is also a resource of Amazon, so we need to go back to our user role which we created for our in our IAM for the Lambda function to be associated with. And we go and create, we go to our roles, we edit this roles. I think it was our serverless workshop role. Yes. So we all are here in this serverless workshop role, right? So let's add one more inline policy. And in this service, we'll select the DynamoDB. Have you all reached this place? Have you all reached the screen basically? I think everyone has reached the screen. Please confirm by typing in yes in the chat. All right, so for DynamoDB, we can select which specific accesses we wish to give. Maybe like I want to give a put item, that is I want to put a specific item in the DynamoDB table. Then in the read, I want to make a scan query. I can get a single item. Okay, I don't think I require any other permission in this specific table. So I select these 3 permissions, then I go to the resources. And in my specific resource, I select the ARN of my table and paste in the ARN for my DynamoDB table, which I've created for my feedbacks. And I click on review policy. I name it as DynamoDB, and I click on create. So the advantage of managing policies directly via IAM is you need not redeploy your whole application because you just changed in your policy for the particular role, because this role will automatically get the new latest policy updated when the Lambda function gets executed. All right. Now, so we have our, so let's open a checklist in a notepad. So we have our UI is ready for build. We have our serverless backend, which is deployed. We have our DynamoDB tables created and ready for use. We have our Cognito user tool created and ready for with a admin account. And we have our API gateway ready to serve our application. Right, guys? We have all these things set and ready for builds. Check, 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 check. But one thing I'm still missing is my static UI bucket hosting. Serverless UI hosting. This is one thing which is pending. Do you guys agree? We didn't do this right now. So how do we do that? So let's go to our AWS accounts now. But before going to our AWS account, let's go to our folder where we have our UI created. And in the UI folder, let's open a command prompt and run the command npm run build. Or maybe we can say, we can run the command as ng build ---- prod. So open up my terminal. I open up my UI, I type in my command ng build ---- prod. And maybe I want ahead of time compilation, so I type in ---- and I hit enter. So this will make a build of our Angular application, create some static build files like JavaScripts and CSS files, which can be directly deployed to our hosting. So now, in the meantime, when the build is happening, let's head back to our AWS console. From the services dropdown, we'll now go to our S3. So have you all reached the screen for S3? So in the S3, let's create a new bucket. We'll click on create bucket, and I say my bucket name would be serverless workshop bucket. I select my region to be AP South 1. Since this is a website hosting, then this bucket needs to have all the public access, so I cannot block any public access. So I uncheck this checkbox and I acknowledge this, that yes, I am enabling complete public access to my bucket. Then I disable my bucket versioning as well, since I don't need it right now, and I click on create bucket. Must not contain uppercase. Okay, so bucket name should be all small case characters. Click on create bucket. I hope this bucket is not created. Yeah. So I have my serverless workshop bucket created. So let me know once you guys have created your own buckets. And you can click on it and open this bucket to view. So is anyone stuck? Someone has not been able to follow up or anything? I think someone is trying to speak BCS at 1945. I am not able to hear you. Can you type in your query?
Sorry, what additional settings we need to configure for S3 bucket?
You don't need to configure any additional settings as of now. You just need to uncheck the block all public access, acknowledge that, and create the bucket.
Okay.
So have you all created our S3 buckets? Can we have a raise of hands or a yes in the chats? Great. So I see everyone has nearly created their S3 buckets. Now we open up our S3 bucket and we go to the tab named as permissions. Can you all see that? So in the permissions tab, you have the bucket policy. You'll have to edit that. Now in the S3 bucket policy, you need to define the whole policy, how you will have the items available from the bucket to be fetched. So what do? You can write in the policy by yourself in the JSON format, or a shortcut is use the policy generator. You see this button to open the policy generator. Open this policy generator here. In the type of policy, you can select the S3 bucket policy. The effect would be allow, principal would be star, actions would be get object. All right. Let me know if it is done till here. And we'll do the last step then. You have to write in the ARN of your bucket. So you copy the bucket ARN from the screen, go back to your policy generator, type in your ARN followed by a slash and a star, which would imply that all the resources in your bucket would be available for reading. Right, and you click on add statement and click on generate policy. So can you all see this policy document which has been generated by the policy generator? Yeah, so copy this policy and paste it in your S3 bucket policy and save the changes. So as soon as your bucket policy would be pasted, you'll see that your access now changes completely to public. And this bucket is now ready to be hosted, used as a hosting for a public website. So let me know if everyone has pasted their policy and is ready for setting this bucket for the website hosting. Shall we move ahead, guys? Okay, is there anyone stuck, or where do we have to paste the policy? After pasting the policy, action does not apply to any resources in statement. Okay, so Prabhakar, can you paste in your policy over here in the chat? And where do we have to paste the policy? You have to paste the policy inside this bucket policy area. Can you see this place? All right. Okay, so Prabhakar, your AWS ARN should end in this way. I'm just sending it to you on chat. Replace this AWS ARN and this bucket policy would work. But at the same time, this ARN belongs to your S3 bucket. I hope this is not something which you have copied from my screen, I guess.
No, I created their own.
Yeah, so this is the same S3 bucket, right? The ARN is of the S3 bucket which you have. So if I edit this policy, I have this bucket policy, I have this serverless bucket workshop over here. I can copy it from here and paste it.
So in principle, I don't have to do anything. Principle I need to remove.
No, you don't need to remove the principal. It's all fine. Rest all is fine. You just need to replace the AR and the resource part. You just need to fix that.
It is working.
It's working now. All right. I think Akash, can you see where you have to paste your bucket policy? Did you paste that? So we click on save changes and our bucket policy is ready. Now we go to the tab which says that properties. Can you see that? Can you go to this tab and scroll to the bottom of this tab and you see the option for static website hosting. Can you all see this? Yeah, so now edit the static website hosting and click on enable. The hosting type would be host a static website. The index document would be for us index.html, and the error document again would be index.html. Since we are using Angular as a single page application provider, all the error documents should be redirected to the index.html file so that it can serve the corresponding file for which has been defined in the routes. So both your index document and your error document would be index.html. You set this and click on save changes. Right, so as soon as you save changes, you will see a URL set for your S3 bucket. Is it done by everyone? Let me know once you have done this, and we'll come back to our application code, which has been built now. And if you open our file explorer, I can see my serverless workshop UI. In the dist folder inside the serverless UI, I have all the files which have been created for me, ready to be deployed on the S3 bucket. Is everyone ready to deploy their static UI on the S3 bucket now? Let me know the confirmations on chat, maybe by raising your hands. Yeah, I see Arvind is ready. What about others? Diwakar is ready. Great.
So one question.
Yes, Arvind.
In some like in production cases, we do not write secrets in a separate file. We usually prefer environment variables in a
Right.
or something. So in this case, what we can do, like if you are hosting it via S3.
Yeah, so when it comes to hosting secrets, you have a Amazon service which is known as the Secrets Manager. You can host your secrets over there, and you have your can you see the key management service and the secrets manager. You can use these services to store your secrets over here and make a call via the AWS APIs to fetch these secrets. Okay, yeah, but at the same time, when you are creating a Angular UI, you are not actually storing any secrets or anything on them. You're just storing the basic client IDs and client. You're just majorly storing the client IDs, which are usually open to the end client as well.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So is everyone ready now? Let's deploy our serverless files. So we'll select all these files and drag and drop them to the S3 bucket. So as soon as this is dropped, we'll click on upload and we'll upload all these files to the S3 bucket. Let me know once you guys have uploaded this code to the S3 bucket. So shall we go and test our application deployment? Let's scroll down to the S3 bucket properties and click on the URL which is being provided over there. So can you see that you have your application hosted on your S3 bucket? So let's log in with the admin ID which we created. So for now, I don't have any users or anything. So I'll add a new user. Let's say I'll add the name as maybe, or better, more better. I'll log out and let's register a new user. My email would be swaminathan@gmail.com. So I registered this new account. I have to enter my verification code. So my verification code has come in over here. I paste this verification code and I verify myself. So as soon as I verify myself, I am logged into this application. I select, there are a few questions which I have to rate myself. Like I'll just simply rate anything, whichever I like about this product. The product was overall great. And I submit my feedback. Click on submit. So you see my feedback has been added and it has been recorded with a specific ID. So you guys were able to record your feedback in your application by registering yourself as an end user and showing it. So done. So yeah, so now if you head over to your AWS DynamoDB over here using your services, maybe let's say in my DynamoDB I have over here. So you can see that your feedback which you just entered would be available inside your table. If you go to the items over here on top, you can see the feedback which you just created. You see your own user having the name and email address as well, through which the feedback was recorded. So can you guys see that? So congratulations guys, you just hosted your first AWS serverless application using Lambda, Cognito, and DynamoDB. So I guess that was all for today's session. I'll stop sharing my screen. And Ghazi, I would like to hand over it back to you for having a thank you note.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was a great information you shared. Thanks for that. And I think everybody has liked what like
Ghazi, I guess your voice is breaking a bit. I don't know why, but your voice is breaking a bit. Ghazi, are you there?
hello.
Hello?
Uh,
Yeah.
are you able to hear me now?
Yes, Ghazi, we are now.
Sorry for my internet connection. It just got on.
Today
Yeah,
ISPs are like, they're playing around with us.
yeah. Whenever we need them urgently, they have the issues.
True.
So yeah. So basically, I was saying like I have announced like we will be having a giveaway from Creately, who is our event partner for today. So I'll just share the screen. I'll also share it with in the chat with everyone the code and the link. So we have a giveaway from Creately for 3 months subscription of the Creately premium subscription. So this is the code. I will post both link and code in the chat, and also I will email all the participants, for today. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining us today. And in our we might have an event on robotics in next month. Maybe we will announce it soon. We will send an email to everyone, so whoever is interested can join again and can enjoy the robotics learning. So thank you guys. I will paste the link, the code. Yeah, I have pasted the code in the chat, so you guys will get. And also I will share this with email, and this recording will be uploaded on IO Combat's YouTube channel. And yeah, so you can watch it there as well.
Yeah.
We will email you one feedback form. That would be it would be really great if you answer that, so we can improve our webinars sessions if there is any issues. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Divagar, we will share the YouTube link as well, and along with all the links, we will email all of you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being in this session.
Thank,
And I hope
yeah,
you
thank
really
you,
enjoyed
thank you,
it.
everyone. Thank you, Anush. Yeah,
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ghazi.
guys. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Anush. It was a nice bookshop. Bye.
Thank you, Abhinav.